Joining us now is Royal Editor for the Daily Mirror, Russell Myers. Russell, lovely to have you back, and some big news this week. We understand Harry's updated his country of residence. Now, what's happened here, and are there any repercussions?
Well, good evening, Carol. Well, there are actually, and this is quite surprising that it's taken this long, I think, for Prince Harry, because he was talking about it a few weeks ago about potentially becoming a US citizen and what does that mean for him and his family. So he's obviously been thinking about it a lot. But the company that he runs, Travalyst, the sustainability travel company, has filed new documents within the British company's house. And he's put down his new country of residence, and that, of course, is the US. So it kind of signifies his final departure from the UK. And does this mean that he will never return? Certainly not into necessarily just family life with the royals, but whether he's going to be back in the UK. Harry did say that he had some business opportunities or opportunities to fly directly or indirectly to the UK to see his family. So whether that happens over the next few months or even years remains to be seen at the moment.
Well, he may not be resident in the UK at the moment, but he is in court, and he's still in court. He's lost his appeal with the Home Office, but he's had another win against News Group newspapers. So can you give us an update on these sets of proceedings, and where does this leave Harry going forward?
Well, it's often a period of intense litigation for Prince Harry, as we've known over the last few years. He's no stranger to it, and certainly fighting on several fronts. Now, with the British government in taking them to court over the Home Office's decision to strip him of his taxpayer-funded security, he is going to potentially appeal that. But at the first hurdle, it seems that he has potentially fallen down because the judge has said that he hasn't won this bid to appeal the decision. And where does that leave him? He may still want to appeal this decision to strip him of this security. He says that he can't bring his family to the UK. He doesn't feel safe in doing so. Whether that means that he won't come next month for the anniversary of the Invictus Games or indeed over to see his family, again, we will wait and see. However, it's a real big watershed moment, this, for Harry, because it's taken him an awful lot of time to have this court case with the British government, and he doesn't want to seem to let it go at the moment. Now, in the other corner is another court case with News Group newspapers. Harry has accused them of using surreptitious activities, phone hacking over many, many years. And News Group newspapers had appealed to delay the court case. However, the judge has said that there is no delay worth doing. The court case will go ahead in January 2025. So it's going to be seen to be another big one for Harry. But incidentally, his lawyers have said that he may be forced to settle the case before it goes to court. We saw Hugh Grant, the actor, settle amid fees facing of up to £10 million. So it could be a very important decision for Harry moving forward.
And an interesting piece in your masthead, The Mirror, this week about the details left out of Harry's book. Now, how much do we know about these details, and do we know why they were left out?
Well, it's interesting that it's been discussed again. I suppose this is part of Harry's US residency claim that he's going through at the moment, the fact that they had to leave Frogmore Cottage. Interestingly, Harry put the date of June the 29th down on his US residency claim because that was the date that apparently he was asked to leave Frogmore along with his wife and essentially sort of exiling them from the UK. And that was a decision from the King. And we've still seen that rumbling on because it has repercussions for Prince Andrew. However, what did Harry leave out of his book? He said himself that he had enough material to write a second book. Obviously, the royals were fairly worried about that. I think that the situation has changed since then. I think that Harry may have wondered in hindsight whether it was a good idea to publish that book and all the sort of tawdry details and the mudslinging that went with it. But whether he did sort of spare his brother's blushes in terms of his true feelings of becoming the next king, I suppose we'll never know. Or maybe we will in the next book. I would think that Harry has kept his cards close to his chest in that instance.
Now, just on Frogmore Cottage, and we did speak about it some time ago, Harry's eviction last year. And again, in all of this, it's come up and there's speculation about Harry's reaction. Now, obviously, he wasn't happy, but a few things said this week about how really unhappy he was.
Well, you can't imagine that he was very happy about it. I mean, it was very much their point of preference that they were saying that they really did want to keep Frogmore Cottage, both him and Meghan. Of course, they'd spent about £2.5 million of nearly $4 million, can you believe, on renovating the project. And then they've been asked to leave it just empty at the moment. And it does seem slightly unfair if you're in the Sussex camp of that situation having been allowed to occur. Now, Harry may have felt his hand has been forced to now put his main residency as the US. Again, we've seen him talking about it recently in US interviews that he might become a US citizen. It's something that he has considered. However, by not having a UK base, it does open up the prospect of him being stripped of his Councillor of State role. Well, what does that mean? Recently, the King asked the government to bring in new legislation so that essentially there would be no reliance on Prince Harry or Prince Andrew. Princess Anne and Prince Edward could come in to sort of deputise for the monarch at certain stages. However, if Harry isn't a resident in the UK, it does open up a completely different situation. And if he hasn't got anywhere to live, I don't see how he can continue in that role.
And over the last couple of weeks, there have been reports about the Sussex's new Netflix series. There are varying views about the expected content and how that could run counter to the priorities of the palace. What's your view on that?
Well, listen, I think that Harry and Meghan are in a difficult situation. I mean, they were criticised for not making public or private statements straight away when the King and the Princess of Wales made their cancer statements. There is an awful lot going on in the palace that we've discussed over the last few weeks. Of course, the King is still undergoing his treatment for cancer. We have the Princess of Wales taking an extended leave of absence as well because of her chemotherapy. And Harry and Meghan have kind of just got to get on with their job. But we don't really know what their jobs are at the moment. We're still awaiting what these new Netflix series would be, and a lifestyle project for Meghan, a polo executive producer role for this new polo show on Netflix for Harry. However, it hasn't really gone too well for the Netflix and Spotify deals. I mean, Meghan sort of being let go after one series for Archetypes on Spotify. The Netflix series hasn't really sort of stood the test of time. So, listen, I think that they'll have to sort of, go back to the drawing board. Their priorities are very, very different to the palace. The palace are trying to sort of pick up the pieces of the last few months. So they're moving in very, very different directions, that's for sure.
Now, back to the late Queen, and we know she loved horse racing. It was one of her great passions. But we understand the new King is eager to continue with the sport of King's tradition. Is that right?
Well, he is. I mean, of course, he's had a sort of a very scaled down schedule over the last few months undergoing his cancer treatment. We've only seen him sparingly at public events, meeting the Prime Minister or other members of the public in very, very small groups at Buckingham Palace. However, we did see him at Easter Sunday in a larger group outside Windsor Castle. I am told there is definitely an appetite to get him back to more public duties over the next couple of months. And that is interesting that, we could see him at a Trooping the Colour, we could see him at D-Day commemorations, but definitely he does want to go to Royal Ascot if he is well enough to do those other events as well. So hugely positive news, I think, from the palace. And I think we should take that as sort of a ray of sunshine to hold on to, because it's been a pretty testing time for the King and the rest of the royals this year already.
Now, Russell, lastly, and I never miss an opportunity to talk about Princess Anne, we know she's hardworking and popular, but this article from our own ABC here in Australia shows she's getting, I suppose, a broader recognition for her work.
Well, certainly. I mean, there's no stranger to Princess Anne rolling up her sleeves and getting on with the job, and she's definitely had to do that more so over the last couple of weeks. And there has been sort of a missing of members of the royal family over the last few months, certainly with the King and Princess of Wales. Prince William, of course, taking an extended leave over Easter. However, it is good that Princess Anne is getting the recognition she deserves. There's no issue with her being called the trusted lieutenant of the King. Certainly, people in the palace would say that the King definitely relies on her for counsel and for maintaining the business of the monarchy, the less glamorous side that we don't see. However, she's still very, very highly respected, and I think that both you and I see it in spades, don't we?
Absolutely, we do. And Russell Myers, pleasure as always. Thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure. Thanks, Karen.